Hello Internet, it's Gong, the nerd of CGTN. What you just saw was a video recorded from a Chinese computer. And by Chinese, I don't mean a Chinese brand, I mean the computer built with Chinese technology. Not Intel, not ARM, not NVIDIA. This is China's answer to the Western bullies. As the lyrics goes, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. The chip restrictions on China has turned out to be a motivation for the Chinese to make their own chips. This computer is powered by the Loongson 3A6000 chip, a CPU that has broken away from the Intel or AA empire and has ventured into a new world. The appearance of this testing rig is not very interesting. It looks like any other PC. There are VGA and HDMI ports for the monitor, an Ethernet port for the network, and many USB ports for the keyboard, mouse, and other devices. So let's get to the point. Let's take this thing apart and check out what is actually inside. Just look at this. Chinese characters, CHN marks, Loongson 3A6000 name, and the long arc core marks. So ID checked. Now let's boot up the machine and see what it can do and how fast it can run. Loongson invented their own chip architecture called LongArc64, so it's not Intel x86 and cannot run Microsoft Windows. Instead, we have UOS, which is built on top of GNU Linux, the brainchild of free software and the open source community. Chinese software engineers, especially the Deepin team, has put a lot of efforts into making this system user-friendly for former Windows users. I've been using this computer as my daily driver for almost a week in this newsroom, and so far so good. Web browsing is totally fine thanks to the Chromium-based L browser. The WPS Office is mostly compatible with its Microsoft counterpart. Although apps like WeChat do not support Linux, the CPU can translate x86 code into LongArc using technologies similar to Apple's Rosetta. The Deepin team has also built many handy tools for tasks like screen capture and image editing, so the experience is not painful at all. When it comes to entertainment, this computer can play 4K movies without hitch and run a small set of video games. The integrated graphics are too slow for large game titles, but you can plug in a dedicated GPU to make things better. The Loongson team gave us an AMD Radeon RX 580 graphics card. With this card, the computer can play Windows games like World of Warcraft and Torchlight 2, but the speed is still far from optimal. The code translation is working, just not that fast. We also tested native games like Minetest, an open-source Minecraft-like game, which ran super smooth even with all special effects on. The dedicated GPU also enabled this computer to run Compass, a desktop effects engine with a lot of fancy tricks. These effects were created more than a decade ago, but can still look pretty cool to those who have only used Windows or Mac OS. So it's obvious that the Loongson powered chip can do a lot of daily tasks. Now let's go further and try some heavy workloads. The first thing that came to mind was benchmark software. Unfortunately, Common Benchmark do not support this platform. We only managed to run the 7-zip benchmark to stress the CPU. The Loongson 3A6000's performance is not impressive compared to Intel's recent chips, but it can definitely beat older hardware, especially the low-power ones. Loongson claimed that the chip's performance is comparable to Intel's Core i3-10100. According to our own testing, that's absolutely true. Now let's get to the ultimate test. As editors for a TV network, we have to check if the computer can do video editing. In fact, a large part of this video was created on this exact computer with OpenShot Video Editor. The editing experience was not torturous for TV pros like me. For home users looking to create a YouTube video from smartphone clips, this computer can easily get the job done. This chip is also energy saving. The total power consumption is capped at about 65 watts when it's fully occupied. It only takes a bit more than 30 watts when running in the background. Okay, time for the final verdict. Rome wasn't built in a day. The Loongson 3A6000 chip is still lagging behind the mainstream products, but it is good enough to satisfy the needs for many people for work and life. In fact, this might be a great time for Chinese PC users to learn some Linux. After all, there is a big world outside of the windows.